Gam Ganapatiye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapatiye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapatiye Namaha. Om Brahma Miristriparan Takare. Banushashi Bhumi Suto. Buddhasha Gurusha Shukra. Shani Rahu Keteva. Sarve Graha Shantikara Bhavantu. Om Namah Shivaya. Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of KosmicKev 100, your weekly astro video zine. I am KosmicKev, your host, and this is for the week beginning with the weekend of Friday, May 27th, going through June 3rd. So this, folks, the good news is this is the last week of Mercury Retrograde. So that, gives people some sense of relief, although I don't think it's been that bad of a Mercury Retrograde. It's been overall okay. And that we have a new moon this week, folks. Early Sunday morning at 4:30 a.m. the moon is new, and it's in a lunar mansion known as Rohini. So this is Sunday morning's new moon. I'll talk about Rohini in a bit. Now today, for Friday, we've got a moon in Bharani. The moon is waning. It's about to shrink. It's that last sliver of the moon. Bharani is about discovering our passions, and it's Venus ruled, and it's in the constellation of Aries if you're looking in the sky for it. And it brings about, its ruling deity is Yama, is the god of death, and its symbol is the yoni, the female sex organ. And so what we say about, and on a Venus day with a Venus ruled nakshatra for Friday, every birth is a death, every death is a birth. So it's like, this is why, we love the extremes. I mean, as an artist, I love the emotional highs and lows. I love that palette of contrast. It's like looking at Yosemite Valley versus the plains of Kansas. I mean, there's a beauty to the plains of Kansas, but I love the drama of looking at beautiful mountains and scenery. But even if you're looking in the plains of Kansas, if you get into that microcosm of it, you'll find there's a whole world of texture in every blade of grass. There's a whole world of difference in whatever we're looking at. And if we change our perspective on how we look at things, we change our lives to make them something better. Let's talk about this new moon, though, coming up 4:30 in the a.m. I cast the sidereal chart for it, and in that chart it was like Aries rising, Venus in the first house, and Rahu in the first house, and it actually looked kind of lovely to me. It looked like there's a chance of creative newness, of innovation, of even fame with this new moon. Now this new moon is in sidereal Taurus, in a lunar mansion known as Rohini. Now, legend is the moon had 27 wives, and those 27 wives were the lunar mansions. His favorite wife was Rohini. Rohini means red. Rohini invokes passion. Rohini was known as, a beautiful woman, small waist, very comely. She had an oxen cart. That's one of the symbols, the oxen cart. Consequently, I've noticed Rohini people tend to have really nice vehicles. And Rohini is associated with perfumes, it's associated with fruit. Now that we have cherries coming in and apricots, blueberries, strawberries, we're in that wonderful season of late spring moving into summer, and it's just, there's a loveliness to it. We can't help that. On the downside of it is sometimes we can get materialistic or vulgar with this new moon in Rohini. But overall, it's one that's invoking the luxuries that make life beautiful and wonderful. So, with that said, we're going to go do your horoscope sign by sign, starting with you, Aries. So, greetings, Aries. Welcome to your horoscope. Mars in the first house. You've got the purpose. Mars's purpose is to get rid of evil. But Mars is also Lord of the Earth. And actually, it's an unfortunate thing that we need bodyguards and cops and military to protect us. But ultimately, in that biblical prophecy, we are going to turn our swords into plowshares. Mars is actually Lord of the Earth. This is the planet that rules ecology. And Aries, you want to do innovative things to help the Earth. And there's so many cool things going on right now where people are realizing long-term effects that industry and engineering and technology have had on our planet. And unfortunately, it's not all good. It's hurting the planet. It's hurting, consequently, us, because guess what? Everything's connected. We're all connected. Just like I always say here, is that every sign of the zodiac, we have them in our charts. You know, you see this? You're not just as an Aries. You're not just this. You're the whole wheel. And so that's a good thing to focus on. And yeah, the planets are kind of bound up. I don't have the South node, but that would be over here in Scorpio right now. So that's sort of like our way out in a lot of ways. Our way out is through transformation. It's through getting into our spirituality, acknowledging that. That's going to make a better world for us. And last week I was talking about how, you know, Sun in Gemini right now, that's your third house. It's a good time to do some writing. It's a good time to rekindle friendships with old friends you grew up with, or with siblings, cousins, all of that. It's also kind of nice for short trips, the third house. I didn't mention that. Good time to take trips. Get out there. Enjoy yourself. All right. So, greetings, Taurus, and welcome to your horoscope. So, you know, we've got Sun moving through your second house right now. Second house is our voice. Second house is our hearing. Second house is our neck. You know, and second house is the way we value things. A lot of people associate money with the second house, and it is, but it's, I think even more so, second house is about our values. We can look at both second house and the 11th house as places where money and finances can improve. But here it is, you know, this is your time to look at your resources in a different way. It's also a time to kind of think to yourself, what was it like for me between, like, you know, kindergarten and junior high when I was growing up and I was learning about who I was? You know, that's a good thing to really consider, because second house is our relationship with our family as part of development. And if you need dental work, well, that's also your mouth comes into the second house. The mouth, the neck, the lower face. Even some people say getting a new pair of glasses can even be a second house experience. So hearing, also ruled by Taurus. You know, in a way it's like almost Taurus, because you go from first house to second house rulership, and you are kind of like about the second house. It's almost like you get a double season while the Sun's in Gemini. Okay, well, here we go. Well, greetings, Gemini, and welcome to your horoscope. So this is, you know, Sun's in your first house. Oh, new moon in Gemini. This is your ultimate renewal. This is the beginning of your solar year. Yeah, and so it's exciting. And with it, we want to bring that majesty and beauty. Now here in the northern hemisphere, especially if you're in a more northern latitudes, you know, over 40 degrees north latitude, this is when the flowers really bloom, and there's still snow on the mountains, there's still water flowing places, and it's just like, what a wonderful world we live in, you know, and that bright sun, those long days in the northern hemisphere, it definitely brings a lot of hope. Now we could think about this too, it's like Gemini, the stars Castor and Pollux, they were believed to be twins, and one of them had some pretty bad problems, engaged in negative works, you know, Castor and Pollux, and so that one got sentenced to Hades. But, you know, the other one, I think it might have been, Pollux was like, oh, I miss my brother Castor, I've got to go down there to Hades. I never keep this one straight, because this is Greek mythology. And so Zeus, the god, said, well, yeah, I get it. It's not right that you're separated from your twin brothers, so I'm going to give you the ability to go to Hades and back, you know. And so, you know, Gemini, consequently, it is that sign that's been to hell and back. And there is some kind of truth to that. You know, what I really like about Gemini are like the poets that came out, like Allen Ginsberg. Oh my God. Talk about somebody who was prophetic. If you read his American Prayer or Howl that were written in the late 1950s, this could have been written in 2022. It is so deep and so profound. Bob Dylan and his way of looking at how people didn't respond to help somebody who was being a victim of a violent crime in one of his songs. It's just like we want to look at that other side of the story that's sometimes hard, and Gemini has this gift of being able to illustrate that and bring it to us, and so you can bring that. And you know, since Mercury is in the 12th house, you might have been feeling a little bit more isolated, and most air signs in the Western zodiac, they love freedom. And to be honest with you, lockdowns have not been that conducive to freedom, and neither have the restrictions or the mandates. And you know, by this point we know everybody's gotten sick. It doesn't really matter what you've done, who you are, you know. And so let's approach each other with compassion. Says, yeah, we all did the best we could with what we knew, and move forward. All right. So, greetings, Cancer, and welcome to your horoscope. All right. So, 12th house, you know, it's really uncharted territory in a lot of ways. You know, when you think about 12th house transit, so Gemini rules your 12th house, this is the deep, this is the ocean, this is us as a full-grown fetus about to give birth in a lot of ways. You know, it's like, oh my God, I'm entrapped inside this womb. I've got to get out somehow, you know. You don't get out till, you know, sun goes into your first house. So, so in this place, there's this incredible energy of spiritual legacy and ancestral legacy coming into you, and all the karma of past lives and the work you've done throughout the year, this life, the work of your ancestors, all that karma, you know. 12th house is a house of karma. It's also the house of the ashram. It's the house of the monastery. It's the house where you need to get into prayer. It's a house where it's really good to go backpacking and be out in the wilderness, because it's easy to be part of your own undoing when the sun transits your 12th house. And there's a Cancer with Gemini in the 12th house. That Gemini's a trickster, you know, and especially with Mercury retrograde at the same time, you're going, oh my God, where do I go from here? Well, I mean, Mercury, though, has been in the 11th house, and, you know, maybe some money that you didn't think you would get came to you. That's the good news. I mean, I'm not placing bets or anything, but there's people out there actually are going to help you, Cancer, and it's important to look at that as we go through the week. And, you know, what I would suggest, too, is just doing a new moon ritual on Sunday about your spiritual life, about your relationship with all your family, work, everything, and just letting die what needs to die so you can make room for something precious and new. Because when we get to the end of this month, coming month, you know, in June, you're going to be, you know, queen of the zodiac again and get your new thing on. All right. Well, greetings, Leo, and welcome to your horoscope. So yeah, I mean, Gemini time is about your social life, but I mentioned it earlier that the 11th house is also a place where our finances can improve. It's like when the boss meets you out after work and say, you know, I didn't want to do this in front of your other coworkers because I didn't want people jealous, but I noticed you've been doing really great work and I want to give you something. You know, let's go out, have a drink, talk about it, or whatever, you know, we do. That kind of thing happens more in an 11th house transit, so that's what you're going through. So this is a relatively happy time, you know, for you, Leo. But it's also a time where you're getting help from others, you know, and it's also a house where if we've listened to the good advice of our father or the good advice of our guru, we manifest a blessing in the 11th house. That's what's been said. So, with that, you know, your social life improves, your financial situation could be improving, and you're making connections with people. And also if you have an older sibling that cares about you and helps you, this is a place for that as well. So what a blessing it is for you. And as the moon moves from, Gemini into Leo later this week, everything gets better, Everything's just going to build up to a better progression. Just hang in there. Greetings, Virgo. Welcome to your horoscope. So Gemini time, Gemini's Mercury ruled, so is Virgo. And, in Vedic astrology, they have this story about the planets, and I really love this story because it's like I never really understood how can, Venus ruled Taurus be an earth sign and Venus ruled Libra be an air sign, or Mercury ruled Virgo be an earth sign and Mercury ruled Gemini be an air sign. And, well, the king and queen of the zodiac. The queen is Cancer. The king is Leo. They wanted a minister of information. Leo chose Virgo. Cancer chose Gemini. And so we have the two ministers of information right there. So what is, so here we go. With Gemini, we're moving a lot quicker because we're moving like the moon. We're closer to Cancer. So we're getting lots of information, and sometimes we get ADHD and we get kind of spread out. In Virgo, we're closer to the sun, and the sun's like consistency. Hey, take your time, but do it right. So critical analysis becomes key in Virgo. We want accuracy, and I certainly know that from the both sidereal and Western Virgo partner in my life. She goes for accuracy, and so there's a lot of learning too, and Virgo is also. There is a sensitivity with Virgo that's a little bit different than Gemini. It's the Virgin. And it's really interesting to note that the Wilderness Act in the United States took place when the sun was in Virgo. And I remember one time on a Labor Day weekend being out in the Ishi Wilderness, and, the road wasn't as good as I had remembered it before, and it was kind of wild and scary and coming back in some ways, but it reminded me, and there was a stellium of planets in Virgo. This is back probably when Saturn was in Virgo. It was like, wow, Virgo really is like the wilderness. We've got this raw, wild, natural world palette to live at. Sunbathing nude. I mean, that's very Virgo. Even though Virgo is associated with modesty and sometimes prudishness, there's a purity with nudity, and Virgo loves purity. There's a purity with being able to be a virgin, and not engage. We're creating a space, a divine space, and in a lot of traditions we respect those people that have chosen a path of abstinence for their own spiritual insights and what they have, and so that's what we're looking at here. And this is the last week of Mercury retrograde, but Mercury's retrograded in your ninth house. I think Virgo is going to get some great spiritual downloads this week, and it's going to move forward with them in the next weeks in ways that's going to help us all in good ways. So that is it for you, Virgo. And greetings, Libra. Welcome to your horoscope. Yes. So Venus is in Taurus now. What a wonderful place for it to be. But Taurus is your eighth house, and eighth house is stuff you don't have under your control. I don't tend to think of Libra as that controlling. I see them as people that are looking for partnerships, negotiations, and amicable agreements. But other people might want to give you a gift, and I think also like Venus in the eighth house can crank up the libido a little bit. And Venus in the eighth house also is about paying off debts. People that have shown you any kind of favor or love, you want to pay back your debts. You want to pay back karmic debts. You want to pay attention to these things. Gemini time is a lovely time for Libra because it is the ninth house. Ninth house inspires long distance trips, travel, vacations. It's also our best teachers, our guru. And in cases where you have a good father what a blessing that is for you. You know, honoring your father. It's so important that we encourage our young men to take on that role if they do become an adult as a very important one in nurturing and providing safety and great experiences for the family. And especially children, you know, between 9 years old and 18, getting them out in the world, showing them how to get jobs, how to be out in nature, all these things. Really important and will elevate you if you participate in this. And it's like most of the things for you right now are your relationships, so I'm sure you'll be focused heavily on those. You'll be trying to get out of debt too. All right. Greetings, Scorpio, and welcome to your horoscope. Highest highs, lowest lows of the zodiac, they say. Gemini's in your 8th house. You know, 8th house is other people's property. It's unjust rewards. It's also sex, and it's death, and it's birth, and it's other people's property. None of these things are necessarily that negative. You know, really hard to cure diseases sometimes originate in the 8th house. So you could think of the 8th house also as a time to kind of purify yourself. It's like, it's right before you go into the 9th house, which is meeting your guru. You know, you meet your guru, or if you're going to do an ayahuasca trip or something, you have to fast from certain foods for a while and not use certain substances for a while so that you have a purity. And so I see this as, you know, we are going through a period where we want to purify ourselves so we can welcome the best experiences for our life. And so that is a good thing. Greetings, Sagittarius. Welcome to your horoscope. Jupiter ruled. Jupiter's in Aries. Nobody does better with Aries than Sagittarius. Sagittarius gets the full-on benefit. And it's interesting to note, too, that Jupiter and Mars are conjoined right now. Yeah. And so, you know, in your 5th house. So if you have children, it's particularly male children, but it could be female children, too. Their issues are really important to you now, and you need to pay attention to that. The other thing is, in your own creative ability. You know, Mars in the 5th, I'd say you exercise to improve your heart. We want to do things to open up our heart, you know. Closed hearts don't function as well as open hearts. Jupiter in the 5th house, it helps us educate ourselves and educate others better. We want that highest kind of information that brings so much greater peace of mind. You know, ask yourself, what are you feeding yourself with? And if you're like turning on stuff like, I mean, even quote-unquote enlightened news, maybe like Democracy Now! Or something, you could be hearing a lot of negative stuff that can be really depressing. And, you know, you also have to ask yourself, is there a bias in this? Is there a goal to convince people of some certain thing with this? And oftentimes that answer will be yes. Just like when you're watching corporate news, CNN or MSNBC, which I think is owned by Microsoft, all that stuff, it's like, realize that you're digesting stuff that may not be good for you. I mean, I find if you read something like a Sufi book of wisdom, or like some Thich Nhat Hanh or Pema Chandran, or the Gospels and the Bible, you'll be feeding yourself with mostly really enlightened, happy stuff that helps you be a better person. And that's really what you kind of need to consume right now, just so that you can elevate yourself and others. Gemini is partnership for you. So, and I mean, I think your love life is going to just get better and better. And you know, part of the love for you now with Venus in your 6th house is serving other people, helping other people. All right. Well, greetings, Capricorn, and welcome to your horoscope. Last week I talked a little bit about the insights you're getting. And we talked a little bit about how Saturn in the 2nd house is leading you to be more responsible with your finances, you know, and not to do anything foolish. Now, I would say it's good to put investments on hold till next weekend, you know, till after June 3rd, when Mercury does go direct. But Mercury for you, in Taurus in the 5th house, it's not bad. You know, you've got, it's sort of like, it's been a return to having a good sense of humor. You know, sometimes the world plays cosmic jokes on us, and we got to be okay with that. Gemini rules the 6th house for you. That's health issues. That's also the need to help and serve others, provide service to others. Let's see, Aries, Jupiter, and Mars in your fourth house. I mean, this could be a time where you sell your house and move. I mean, I'm not saying every Capricorn is going to do this, or every Capricorn moon, or or even a vehicle you own. You might be selling a vehicle, but like there's some movement going on with fixed assets. It's also like you might inherit something too. Something good could come on from the situation here that we don't know about yet. And I would say read spiritual writings too. Just like I said to Sagittarius, I would go with that for you. That's going to help you. You're in a more introspect place, even though the sun's shining bright and we've got long days. The issues around family, around your personal life, those are really important because that's where all the grahas are. That's where all the planets are, right down there. And but I think there's opportunities for romance and good things this week, and there's nothing to be afraid of. Be your best self. Greetings, Aquarius, and welcome to your horoscope. I mean, when Saturn in your first house, it's never easy, and in a lot of ways it puts on an extra level of responsibility. Some of the qualities of Saturn is it restricts us, it embarrasses us, it depresses us, it slows everything down. It also asks us for more maturity, and it asks us to be thoughtful, and sometimes to have to do things over again. It's like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. You're still making progress, but it's so frustrating after those 3 steps that you've lost 2 of them, and I get that. I have a lot of empathy for whatever it is you're going through right now. But I also see that you're coming on with compassionate leadership that considers the needs of those who've been forgotten. And that's a wonderful gift to bring the world. Also, Gemini time is pretty cool for you because it's your 5th house. So this is opening your heart. It's like, open the heart, Have more love. Open your heart towards your children. Do what you can to help bring out the best. Take a new approach. Just be a listener. Ask them what frustrates them without being defensive. Just being able to listen and not say anything. It's hard, I get that. I have to become a better listener myself. So I empathize with you on that. But I believe that in this whole new moon process, this is a renewal of your heart, and the most beautiful you is emerging. Not Rohini you. All right. Greetings, Pisces. Welcome to your horoscope. Neptune, it's really kind of a hard planet to deal with because it could be a stormy sea. And, the ocean is vast. And I'm not in the mood to take on the ocean today. I mean, tsunamis are not fun. Just ask any old person that lived in Alaska to Crescent City, California on the coast in 1964. It was a big earthquake, brought tsunami to the whole Pacific Northwest. There was a lot of boats and houses and things that were lost on the coast during that year. And so, we have respect for the ocean. We have respect for that. Gemini is about your 4th house. It's another water house. It's another house of emotion. It's a house where we learn about where our happiness lies, what our feelings are. And it's also sometimes our fixed assets, legacies that have been given to us from our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, heirlooms, and also things of value, our personal property. And it's also kind of the beginning point of where we step out into the world and where our actions begin to affect other people. One of the cool things, though, about Saturn being in your 12th house, and a lot of you are sidereal Aquariuses anyhow, is that is the exalted, that's the Karaka house, that's the better house, rather, for Saturn. I mean, Saturn's exalted in Libra as far as signs go. But, somehow in our isolation, in our difficulty, Saturn is there bringing us compassion. You know, I think about the story in the Bible of Elijah when he had to run away from Jezebel. He was in isolation, but the ravens came and brought him food. You know, in this really distraught situation where he thought, God, I'm going to get killed by the queen's, armies or something. They're after me. You know, and it's like, no, I am going to keep you. And he went through his purpose and he lived and everything went really well. So I just say to you, Pisces, live in that highest spiritual light. You know, be that empathetic, imaginative, creative person you are, and you're gonna see things in your inner life change so that you going out here in your outer life, you have a more positive effect on the world. And with that, I'm gonna close our horoscopes for this week. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Tat Sat.